1 week on from his last appearance in front of the media, Electricity Minister Kgosientsho Ramokgopa shared the latest developments around the Energy Action Plan. The nation has endured months of load shedding. Ramokgopa also delved into the issue of unlawful electrical connections across the country. eNCA senior reporter Silindelo Masikane has followed that story for us.
We're in Pretoria, where we received the latest briefing on the implementation of the Energy Action Plan. But just to unpack what we heard today, I am joined by the Minister himself. Thank you so much for your time. Maybe let's just start with putting this into layman's terms. For the average person on the street, where are we in terms of the stability of our energy generation, as well as when are we going to see lower stages of load shedding?
Well, firstly is to say that we continue to register progress on the available capacity, so the performance of the power stations. So remember, when we entered into the winter period, we say part of the winter strategy was to scale down on what we call planned maintenance hours, voluntarily taking out the units to fix them. So what we are doing, and we kept that at about 2,500. So what we are doing now, because we've gone through the winter period, the demand is coming down, as opposed to ensuring that essentially we've got longer periods of the day without load shedding. We are taking that opportunity to take out the units to fix them, and that's why what we call the planned outages. So us voluntarily taking out the units to fix them, we have increased it from about 2,500. We are now at 6,600. And this is not long-term outages. A lot of them is about 3 to 5 days. Make sure that we fix the units so that when they come back, they are reliable, they perform at the right level, so that when I come back to you and say we're out of load shedding, I have confidence in this unit. And that's what explains, if you like, the stage 4, because we've taken out more units, we're fixing them, and then you'll see it will start to attenuate from Sunday going into the week. But the point we're making is that we have to do things right. Part of the reason why we got to where we are today, the intensity of load shedding, is because we have not been doing the maintenance. We allowed these machines to run until they fail. With us now, what we are doing is that when we are meant to take them out, even if they are running, they are giving us the megawatts, we will take them out, fix them, do the right things, so that we are able to ensure that our efforts are sustainable.
So what's the outlook for the foreseeable future? How much closer are we from ending load shedding?
Okay, so one of the things we have registered this past week is that we have returned about 3 units that have been 2 units that have been on long-term outage at Tutuka. They give us close to 1,000 megawatts. I did a report on the work that we are doing in Kusile. 4 units, Unit 5 will come in October, and the 3 units that have gone out, the first will come late November, and the last one 24 December. And all of that put together, the Tutuka one, including the Kusile ones, we should be upwards of 4,000 megawatts. And of course, compared to where we were when we appointed in around March, we are getting close to about 7,000 megawatts, exceeding the 6,000 megawatts that the President wanted. So we are getting closer and closer. But the answer is not just only the lights being on for 24 hours. It's about new generating capacity. Because once the lights are on 24 hours, investors will come, industries will ramp up, improve their capacity utilization. There's going to be more demand or strain on the grid. That's why we have to provide new generating capacity, and that's why part of the briefing today was to emphasize that we are very aggressive on the renewable side. The issues of gas, the base load is important, that 3,000 megawatts, and we are accelerating that procurement so that we are able to provide the energy security to the country, and not just end load shedding, but allow the economy to grow at the rate that is desired.
Let's then talk about what we saw happening in the inner city this week. A lot of these buildings that we are seeing going up in flames, many of them, the reasons are around illegal connections. We've got about 600 of these buildings in Johannesburg alone. Perhaps talk to me about your reaction to this. Do you think municipalities are doing enough to ensure that we're not seeing this kind of a problem escalating?
Well, first is just to continue to share our condolences at the loss of life, the tragedy that has befallen us. Like I said, so this is not just isolated there. I mean, I've been to Lichtenberg, I've been to Komani in Queenstown, I've been to Orange Farm, I've done large parts of Soweto. There's big issues with regards to illegal connection, and a lot of them are placing a lot of pressure on the distribution infrastructure, transformers and the substation. They are blowing up. When I was in Orange Farm, for an example, there are suburbs or communities that have not had electricity for the past four years as a result of transformers that have blown up. We know that, for an example, in Orange Farm, we need to replace about 175 of these. So illegal connection is a big issue that requires attention. Of course, in some spaces, like the tragedy that unfolded before us here in Johannesburg, has proven to be catastrophic, has proven to be fatal. So it's important that it receives attention. On Friday, yesterday, the President convened the PCC, the Presidential Coordinating Committee, really that brings together the Premier, SALGA and national government. And one of the issues that received attention is exactly the load shedding issue, in particular the issues around distribution infrastructure, for us to work together to resolve that challenge. And there's a commitment from SALGA, of course, as a member organization of local authorities, to say that there has to be one advocacy, and most importantly, there has to be enforcement of the law. The state must exert itself, and thirdly, we must make sure that those that are connected are legally connected. It's our intention to make sure that we control everyone who are able to meet their consumption. Those that are indigent and poor, they'll be able to get their allocation of free basic electricity. They will be accommodated. But it's important that people abide, respect the law. People have to pay, those that can pay. I'm not talking the indigent, there's a dispensation for them. The pensioners, there's a dispensation for them. But those that can pay have to pay, and we have to ensure that we enforce the law. Otherwise, ESCOM's balance sheet will continue to deteriorate. The municipalities' liquidity position will continue to be compromised, because it's important that everyone gets to pay. We are able to build this infrastructure going forward. What we know now is that even if you resolve load shedding today, there are many communities across the length and breadth of the country that don't have electricity as a result of this failed distribution infrastructure. As an example, ESCOM spent over 400 million just fixing it in the Gauteng area. So it's important that we work together with ESCOM, with municipalities and communities in particular, to address the issues of illegal connection.
Yeah, but I think that's where my question comes in, that municipalities aren't playing their oversight role. Now we have South Africans who pay for their electricity being subjected to load shedding.
Oh, yes, you're absolutely correct. And that's the point we're making, that there's a third-party collateral damage because someone is not doing his or her bit. You have this situation. Overload on this infrastructure. Of course, demand just surging. We don't know where this demand is coming from. And the significant non-technical losses simply means that people are illegally connecting. It's not as a result of failure of the system, but people that are illegally connecting. So it's important that we address that. So municipalities don't just play an oversight role. They must enforce the bylaws. They must ensure that there's a proper connectivity. Those that are poor are catered for. They are given this allocation of free basic electricity. We are able to ensure that the tariff structure is cost reflective, so that we don't just penalize people unnecessarily. You can see inflation, the cost of living is skyrocketing. So it's important that we are able to justify, if you like, the tariff increases. But that's the domain of municipalities, and NERSA will make that determination whether they approve or not. But it's important that at the level of principle, we are able to establish that, so that as we resolve the generation side, we are quite confident that the distribution side is also in good health.
All right. Lastly then, Minister, would you say moving forward we should be seeing more action from municipalities to curb these occurrences of illegal connections?
Well, I can't talk on their behalf, but all I know is that part of the conditions that Treasury has placed, and us working with municipalities to extinguish the debt that a lot of them owe to ESCOM, it's important that they address illegal connection. It's important that we are able to meet our consumption. It's important that the poor, the elderly, and the indigent are given their fair share of free basic electricity. So those are some of the conditions that must be met. A lot of municipalities are beginning to participate. At last count, we had about 12 of them that are participating. There's still more that are coming on board because they opt in. You can't force them, they must opt in. But our interest is that of the consumer and businesses. For as long as we have sections of municipalities, suburbs that don't have electricity, when in fact they've been paying and paying diligently, I think it's unfair. It's important that we step in, work with municipalities to resolve the problem.
Thank you so much, Minister.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you. All right, that is Minister of Electricity, Mr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, just unpacking some of the issues that we've seen arising from that fire in the Johannesburg CBD, and of course that issue around illegal connections and how it compounds load shedding for the ordinary South African.